Hello, and welcome to KRAD COVID Readings. I'm Keith R.A. DeCandido, doing my bit to cure the coronavirus blues. Before I start, I would like to once again pimp my Patreon, patreon.com/KRAD. If you're enjoying these readings, you will probably enjoy the other things that I present on Patreon, which include monthly movie reviews, which you can get for just $1 a month. For $2 a month, you can get not just the movie reviews, but also regular cat pictures. We have very cute cats, and they're very photogenic. For $5 a month, you get those two things, plus anywhere between 1 and 5 TV reviews per month, depending on the month, as well as the movie reviews and the cat pictures. For $7, you get all three of those things, plus a weekly excerpt from my work in progress, whatever that might be that week. And then for $10 a month, you get all that stuff, plus every month I will give you a vignette featuring one of my original characters. The Dragon Precinct characters, the Super City Cops characters, the Cassie Zukov characters, the Brom Gold characters, or Sherlock Holmes and Jack Watson, any one of those. And then for $20 a month, you get all of that, plus you also get a first look at my first drafts. As soon as I finish a chapter or a short story, you get to see it in its raw, unedited form. So it's patreon.com/KRAD. So please, if you could consider supporting that, I'd be very happy. Meantime, the International Association of Media Tie-In Writers was formed in the early part of the 21st century by Max Allan Collins and Lee Goldberg. It was created because while most writers of various genres, have their own writers' organizations, the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America, the Romance Writers of America, the Horror Writers of America, the Mystery Writers of America, there wasn't one for people who write licensed fiction, Star Trek novels, Star Wars novels, Farscape comic books, Alien novels and comic books, and so on, until the IMTW was formed. It's become a very valuable networking tool. We also have our own awards, the Scribe Awards. I won one for my short story Ganbate, which I read earlier in this reading series. And this year, the IMTW decided to put together a charity anthology. We're putting out an anthology called Turning the Tide, Tide spelled T-I-E-D, because we're silly that way. Tie-in, tide. It'll be out next spring, if all goes according to plan, and all the proceeds from this anthology will benefit the International Literacy Organization. So our assignment was, anybody who's contributing, is to do a story featuring a character we did not create, because that's what we do. But it's to be a public domain character. So I decided the characters, all sorts of characters, some familiar, like Sherlock Holmes, Hopalong Cassidy, Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, so on. I decided to go with Ayesha, who is all better known as She Who Must Be Obeyed, from the H. Rider Haggard novel She, published in 1886, and which has been adapted in any number of forms in the 115 or so years since, or 130, whatever. I can't do math. But among other things, there was a movie starring Ursula Andress about Ayesha. Anyway, I decided to do my own take on it, and this is that here. It is called In Earth and Sky and Sea, Strange Things There Be. June 2002. Agent Lamanna, I wish I could say it's good to see you again, but that would be a lie. Ms. Yaddy, wish I could say I'm surprised to see you here. Hang on, no, wait, that's the God's honest truth. I will say, though, that this really is a surprise to see you in this rotten condition. I will make a full recovery, worry not. I'm going through a whole lot of emotions, Ms. Yaddy, and I gotta tell you, worry don't even crack the top 10. What would be atop the list then, Agent Lamanna? Amazement, mostly. You slipped on a wet floor. You broke your neck. You should have died. Yet here you are, sitting across from me in an interrogation room, under arrest. Something I've been trying and failing to do for 10 years. And then the docs tell me that your neck is healing. And this amazes you. Kinda does, yeah. How else am I supposed to react when someone gets a fatal injury and doesn't die? It is but the latest of many I have suffered, Agent Lamanna, and far from the most interesting. Or indeed, far from the most mundane. You gonna tell me how you did that? Did what? Not die. That depends. Will you provide me with intelligence on how you managed to arrest me? My passport should not have triggered a single security measure. Because the guy who forged it for you is that good. I refuse to answer that particular query, Agent Lamanna. Because it'd be admitting that you had a forged passport. You You sound like a lawyer. Which makes me wonder why you don't have one with you. I was alive when Hammurabi wrote his code of law, and I have observed jurisprudence. Oh, here we go. In hundreds of different nations over thousands of years. I'm more well-versed in the laws of the nations of this world than any lawyer I might hire. I do not require legal counsel. I do require that you inform me of the reasons for my arrest. Were you paying attention last September when those 2 planes wiped out the World Trade Center? I vaguely recall discussion of it. Vaguely. You kidding me? I have seen far greater disasters in my time. Jesus, again with the crazy talk. Look, they changed the passports after 9/11. They're a crap ton harder to forge now. In fact, it's pretty much impossible. I don't care how much you paid for your guy. He ain't that good. Nobody is. And that ain't the half of it. What do you mean? I mean, I've been digging real deep into the life of Ayesha Yadi, which, by the way, is a whole hell of a lot easier now, thanks to a brand spanking new American law you obviously don't know much about yet, called the Patriot Act. And you know what we found out? I await your answer with bated breath, Agent LaManna. It's all phony. Every last bit. So I gotta ask, who the hell are you? Do you recall, Agent LaManna, the book I mailed you several years ago? Yeah, that 19th century piece of crap, Her or something. She, by H. Rider Haggard. Right, that. Did you peruse it? Yeah, I read it. Like I said, piece of crap. Figured you sent it because the main character was also named Ayesha. In fact, the protagonist of that novel was myself. If I'm remembering right, the narrator kept talking about how Ayesha was white, which you definitely aren't. Also, she was the antagonist, not the protagonist. I suppose it depends on your point of view. In any case, Agent LaManna, let me rephrase. The character of Ayesha is based on me. You see, while Haggard's tome was a work of fiction, it was, in fact, based on true events. You doubt me? Let's see. Do I doubt that you've been alive for thousands of years? Your sarcastic tone notwithstanding, Agent LaManna, this does, in fact, answer your query as to how I did not perish when I slipped and broke my neck. I cannot die. And you ruled a hidden country in Africa 115 years ago. I did, in fact, do so until 3 men sojourned to Kor to seek me out. However, I must state very emphatically that I was not waiting for a reincarnation of my one true love. The men who journeyed to seek me out believed that, but it was utter nonsense. The lover they spoke of was an imbecile, whom I was glad to be rid of. But his family and their descendants created the fiction that I still longed for him, and that story was exaggerated and passed down. So, Job, Leo Vinci, and Horace Holly, they really existed too? Those were not their true sober case. Haggard changed their names a consideration he did not extend to me, though he did alter my skin color to that of someone far paler than I, likely because he did not believe that the Victorian-era audience for his published account would accept anything but a white woman in the role. Yet, the main reason why I thought the novel was crap was because of the whole white savior, black savage nonsense. Didn't really age well. But you're telling me, Ms. Yadi, that the basic story was true. More or less. The trio, whom Haggard renamed Vinci, Holly, and Job, did indeed venture forth to Kor, and their arrival made me realize how much time had passed in the outside world, and I thought perhaps I should return to it and see how it changed, and how I might perhaps thrive in it where I did not before. So you didn't die back then. Heavens no, Agent LaManna, there was no flame of life, as Haggard imagined, though I suppose that might have come from the account he adapted rather than his own imagination. No, I'm afraid I know not the origin of my immortality, but it certainly is no flame of life, and I did not step into it only to shrivel up and die, as Haggard wrote. I was kidding, Miss Yadi. I was not, Agent LaManna. All right, fine. To quote my favorite movie, you're sick, I'll humor you. What happened after you left Africa? I first traveled to Greece. I spent many fine years there, and I thought it would be a good place to reintroduce myself to the world. Unfortunately, I arrived in time for war to break out between Greece and Turkey right around the turn of the century. I had hoped my wealth would protect me, but wealth? You were rich then, too? I had amassed quite the fortune before I decided to become a reclusive ruler in the so-called Dark Continent, Agent LaManna, and the land I ruled had an impressive veins of both gold and diamonds. I can assure you my wealth has always been considerable. And yet here you are, under arrest, and you still can't tell me who you really are. I've done nothing but tell you that, Agent LaManna. You ain't Ayesha Yadi. I got a crap ton of paperwork that tells me you created that identity. The social security number you're using belongs to a 9-year-old kid who died in a car accident in 1959. If you will let me continue, Agent Lamanna, I will explain. As I said, the broad strokes of what you read in Haggard's tome was truth as far as it went. After the war in Asia commenced, I traveled to west to Europe, attempting to settle in London. However, while my wealth purchased a measure of respect, it was a tiny measure that was in opposition to the disrespect that came with the color of my skin. A dark-skinned woman could not be a member of European high society in the early days of the 20th century unless she was an entertainer, which I most assuredly am not. Though no, you're doing a pretty good job of storytelling right now. I instead went east to India, passed myself off as a native of that land, and found a British nobleman to marry. As the wife of nobility, I was accorded the respect I deserved. I used the combined wealth of myself and my husband to fund hospitals in France during the so-called war to end all wars. When that appellation proved inaccurate, following the rise of Chancellor Hitler, I absconded to South America. Didn't think the Nazis were worth fighting. I have seen all manner of warfare, Agent Lamanna, but the methods of 20th century warfare proved crueler and more appalling than any I had ever seen. The inventions of the aeroplane and the submarine removed all personal consequence from the war, making it easier to kill without even seeing your target. It is despicable. Something amuses you? I ain't never heard anybody call it an aeroplane outside of an old movie before, is all. And honestly, killing is horrible no matter how you do it. Yes, but when you engage with rifles or swords or knives, you are face to face with your opponent. You see what you are doing. But the newer methods of fighting allow one not to even acknowledge that you are killing other people. Whatever. What happened after World War II? I grew weary of the unrest in the South American nations and traveled to the United States, specifically California. Again, I used my wealth, this time to fund causes related to what was generally referred to as civil rights. It was an instance where my darker skin proved useful, as I was furthering a cause that directly benefited me. Makes sense? But that movement was also met with violent responses from those in power, which endangered me. How if you can't die? I may still be hurt, Agent Lamanna, and I prefer to avoid pain where possible. In addition, the creation of a false identity was proving more complicated, with the advent of identification cards, social security numbers, passports, and the like. Eventually, I moved to New York City and became a reclusive billionaire, the role in which I first encountered you a decade ago. I've been trying to nail you on insider trading ever since. Your efforts have been amusing to me, if futile. For someone who has lived only a few decades, Agent Lamanna, I will admit that you have a certain cleverness, but your efforts were always doomed to failure. To failure. Yes. Okay, this is the part where I remind you who's sitting on what side of the desk. I admit this particular setback was unexpected. Yeah, I bet. So you got all this gold and diamonds and stuff from Africa. Indeed. I brought only a fraction of my total wealth with me when I departed court, and have gone back periodically to replenish my funds when necessary, and look in on my people. In fact, that was what I was on my way to do when you captured me. I made some rather foolish investments, as I was assured that Enron and Lucent were sure bets. After losing quite a bit of capital on those companies, there was a need for a fresh infusion. So let me get this straight. The reason why we can't find any evidence of who you really are is because you were born however damn long ago in Mesopotamia or where the hell ever. Your IDs are all forged because you were born so long ago. And you're really the immortal queen of some lost kingdom full of guys in huts in the middle of nowhere in Africa. There are no huts in Kor, Agent Lamanna. I have reinvested my wealth in my queendom. We remain hidden, yes. I do not wish my people to be embroiled in the wars that continue to ravage the rest of the continent, but Kor is a modern nation, worry not. Yeah, I wasn't worried. Either way, we got you on fraud and forgery. It ain't much, but it's enough to make me happy. I'll be in a minimum security penitentiary for a hilariously brief period, Agent Lamanna. I've been imprisoned by the warlords of Mesopotamia and the pharaohs of Egypt. These summer resorts you call prisons hold no fear for me. Maybe. But we froze your assets and you got nothing you can access. Here in the United States, perhaps. It's good enough for me. Enjoy prison life, Ms. Yadi. We'll meet again, Agent Lamanna. Rest assured. September 2004. Agent Lamanna, how good to see you. Wish I could say the same, Ayesha, or I guess I should say, Your Majesty. Personally, I'm quite fond of She Who Must Be Obeyed. You know, some British TV show stole that from Haggard, right? Haggard stole it from me, so it's only reasonable. In any event, I have been informed by your superiors that the free nation of Kor has revealed itself to the world, stated that I am their queen, and has threatened to declare war on the United States if I am not released. Yep. And my boss told me that I had to be the one to escort you out. That was at my request. You see, Agent Lamanna, may I call you Francesca? I really wish you wouldn't. I'm afraid it was a rhetorical question, Francesca. In any event, I did say that we would meet again. You wanted to show off your queenliness to me, huh? Something like that. Well, congrats. Let's get this over with so I can get back to my real job. Let us speak of that, Francesca. You see, I wished you to escort me to my freedom in order to discuss your job. What about it? I wish to offer you a new one. Are you kidding me? Not in the least. It has been quite some time since someone got the better of me. Certainly those idiots whom Haggard renamed as Holly, Vincy, and Job didn't. But you, Agent Francesca Lamanna of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, were able to incarcerate me where hundreds of soldiers, police officers, agents, and investigators failed over the centuries. I admire that, and would like you to come back with me to Kor. For what? To become the head of palace security. I will be a target now that we are out and about in the world, and I trust your ability to keep me from harm as the one person who overcame my own ability to keep myself from harm. Will you accept, Francesca? Are you out of your goddamn mind? Is that a no? Jesus, this is insane. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that you really are the queen of the jungle or whatever, and now you want me to move to goddamn Africa? Yes. I'm just a woman from the Bronx. You're a federal agent, Francesca, and a skilled one. Further, you have no family ties since your parents died, no husband, no children. Yeah, I guess I shouldn't be surprised that you vetted me. Jesus. Look, I gotta think about it, okay? I do not require an immediate answer. I have several meetings in your nation's capital over the next week. I would appreciate a response before I fly home Tuesday next. Okay, I guess. Farewell, Francesca. I hope to hear from you in a week. Take it easy, Ayesha. You, gave me a hell of a lot to think about. I am seriously considering writing more stories about this particular version of Ayesha. We'll see if it happens. It's not like I don't have other things to do, but anyway, that will be in Turning the Tide, TIED, which will be published by the International Association of Media Tie-In Writers sometime in the spring of 2021. Keep an eye on iamtw.org for more information, which will also tell you more about the International Association of Media Tie-In Writers in general. You can also keep an eye on my website and my blog. Website is DeCandido.net. Blog is DeCandido.wordpress.com. That will tell you, I'll be updating people on Turning the Tide as information becomes public. And in the meantime, if you could support me on Patreon, that would be great. Patreon.com/KRAD. And in the meantime, please stay safe. Thank you.